And why do you think most people don't actually dive into that online business, or they don't take that first step?
Fear. I mean, people are very scared to kind of take a leap into the unknown. My name is Jared Goetz, and I built the second fastest growing Shopify store of 2017, only behind Kylie Jenner, and I'm one of the passionate few.
So thanks for being on the show today, Jared.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
My man, so let's talk about it. We know you have one of the fastest growing stores on Shopify, second to Kylie Jenner, is that correct?
Yeah.
So where did all this ambition begin? Because I know that you built many businesses, both in terms of products and online. You're only 27 years old. Where did all this ambition begin? Were you always that way, or where was the seed planted?
I always wanted to do something. I was always scared to be normal. I never wanted to stay in my hometown or, get a regular job, or I always wanted to do something different. I actually started out when I was still in high school. I used to rent houses during prom season and rent them out to prom parties. And that was like one of my first ventures. And then
How old were you at that time?
17.
Dang. And where did you grow up?
In Long Island, New York.
Okay, cool. And were your parents entrepreneurs, or?
Yeah, I grew up with a single mom in a one-bedroom apartment. So another big
Wow.
factor for me is like I always want to provide for my mom.
Yeah. Was that a big part of the motivation growing up too?
Huge part, yeah.
Yeah. What does she think about everything now?
Well, at first, I had a lot of failures when I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, and she always was like, you need to get a job, you need to get a regular job like everyone else. But I knew that wasn't right for me. But now she's just like as proud as can be and like super happy. And
Yeah. What was your first job?
First job ever, but yeah, I had a job. I worked at Baskin Robbins, scooping ice cream.
Oh, nice.
And I washed dishes at a restaurant for a little bit.
And you did those two simultaneously?
Yeah, when I was
Nice.
like 15, 16, 17.
And then 17, that's when you started kind of doing the renting houses and all that?
Yeah, and then I got into a bunch of other little projects, like a car washing business, a moving company. And I always wanted to try new stuff.
And were those doing well, or was it kind of just trying and failing?
No, didn't really do too well.
Yeah. And then when did you start catching kind of traction with it?
Actually, when I was in college, I started throwing concerts. So I started hiring big artists to come to venues, and we would sell tickets. And then we created our own show called Electric Flurry. It was the world's largest foam party. So we had
I heard about
circus acts, big DJs, foam cannons that shot foam 200 feet in the air.
Yeah.
And we grew up to arena-sized shows.
How did you grow that, or what was your kind of step 1, step 2, step 3 for that?
Well, step 1, I wanted to get into the industry of throwing concerts because there was somebody from a neighboring hometown of mine who was living a really cool life, and he was making a lot of money, and he was only 2 years older than me. He was booking Avicii and other big artists, and I was like, I want to do that. Long story short, I did a favor for his sister, so he offered to allow us to partner with him at our school.
Nice.
So we booked 2 shows. We did a Steve Aoki concert and a Lupe Fiasco concert. And at the time, Lupe Fiasco was #1 Billboard artist.
Yeah.
And it was back-to-back nights, 2 different kind of genres. So
And how old were you at this time?
I was 20, maybe 20. Yeah, I was 20.
So you didn't really know what you were doing. You just kind of wung it and kind of learned as you went, right?
Yeah, I actually had to raise money from kids at school. So everyone I knew with $5,000, $10,000, I went around, hey, invest in the show.
Yeah.
And we actually, our first night with Steve Aoki, we sold out and made $40,000. And then, but the second night right after, Lupe Fiasco, we lost $40,000.
Dang. So you guys broke even.
Broke even, but I saw how much potential there was. And those were smaller shows.
Right.
So, but the major overlying expenses were the artists. So we're like, how do we throw a show without having to pay artists $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to come? So we created our own show.
Nice.
That's how we got into Electric Flurry.
And that show consisted of what as the main attraction if you didn't have big name talent?
It was the world's largest foam party. So that was
that was the marketing of it, yeah.
Yeah, and we had the circus acts, fire breathers, contortionists, magicians, just cool things on stage.
Do you remember the budget for that?
Our first show, I think, was maybe $30,000 or $40,000, but we ended up profiting $50,000 our first show ever for Electric Flurry.
And then how long was it from conception to execution to marketing? What was the timeline on it?
We literally had no idea what we were doing. As
is the case for most entrepreneurs.
I was in a fraternity, and there was, I was in school, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do on Halloween. We're should we throw a party? We don't, I was we're just trying to figure it out.
Right.
And we thought, why don't we throw our show on Halloween? And we ended up selling out the show just because we really hustled, and went around to different college campuses in the area and put out like 100,000 flyers, and we got everyone to. So
you guys like rented out space at a university, or where was it that you got the space at?
This space was called the Washington Avenue Armory.
Okay.
It was an armory, so it was just a giant open place. Mm-hmm. That's where we got the first show.
Perfect. So then you just had it a one-day event, set it up, and you guys profit $50K?
Yeah, we promoted it for a month, like maybe 16, 17-hour days, just like
nonstop.
Yeah, because we had all our money in it, and we had like 7 people as partners at the time, and it was a huge success.
And then from there, what starts going off in your mind? Because that was your first kind of bigger success, entrepreneurial success?
Yeah, basically there was too many people on our team. So there was like 7 of us, and kind of 2 of us were pulling the weight. So we broke off and formed we didn't even have a name for it at the time. We called it like Foam Fest. Yeah, we called it Foam Fest. And then we branded it. We made it called Electric Flurry. We got a logo made. We started, got a website made, started putting out content. And our goal was to throw as many shows as we could. And we thought it was going to be easy because the first one did so well.
Smooth,
We thought it was going to be no problem. So we just started booking more shows.
And then how did it scale? How did those shows do?
The first show we did after that, we lost some money. And then we literally didn't know what we were doing. Like I didn't know how to produce a concert.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to hire someone to build a stage or how to hire people to do lighting or like.
That's really interesting because like a lot of entrepreneurs or people we interview, a lot of them say that, right? Like a lot of people who aspire to be entrepreneurs or get their idea off the ground, they think they got to know the path first or they got to have more experience. But could you speak a little bit to how important it is to just kind of go anyways and just kind of bump into the walls figuring it out? What have you learned in that process?
Honestly, like so many people want to wait until the time is right, to quit their job like one day when it feels right, or to do this project one day when I know enough. But like that time never comes.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of just do it, and like different things will happen that you didn't expect. And most of the time they're better than what you expected. So just kind of, as you do things, people are attracted to that too. If you have something, you're building something, people want to be a part of it, and new opportunities form from it.
Right, that you couldn't have anticipated prior, yeah.
Exactly, things you never anticipated.
So you apply that, and then you start scaling them. Some do well, some don't. And then how did it go to, how did you ultimately transition out of that?
Well, we ended up doing really well for our first year. When I was 21, we did about $1 million in sales, in ticket sales.
Beautiful, yeah. And that's with one partner?
One partner.
Nice.
It was cool. I thought I knew everything at that time.
Right, yeah.
And then we booked a show that was a little bit out of our league. It was a big arena on a campus. There's a lot of expenses we didn't expect. And we basically put all of our money into it. I got investors. I had one main investor who gave me like $50,000. And not only did I lose all my money, but I lost his money too.
Oh, man.
And then I got sued.
From him?
From him. And he was my age, my friend, and he inherited like $50 million.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be a DJ, so he wanted to fund our show and be a DJ. And he ended up suing me. So put me in like a really tough position.
And how old were you at that time?
22. Yeah, I was 22.
Shit. So then from there, what's going through your mind?
Well, at that time, I had lost all my money. Right. I had a lawsuit on my hands, and it wasn't just the $50,000. He sued me for $250,000. So it was like a lot of, for all the damages and stuff.
Yeah, damages and
Me and my partner were fighting, so like I ended up buying out my partner and trying to make it work.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't working, no matter how hard I tried.
Yeah.
But a new opportunity came into my life out of it because a company called Yik Yak. It was an app. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Yik Yak?
Yeah, I heard about Yik Yak. I know it was like college campuses, right, where you type stuff like secretly. It's like
Twitter.
Anonymous. Yeah, like anonymous Twitter on campus.
Right. Yeah, and you're in a mile radius around you. They reached out because they wanted to sponsor Electric Flurry, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll get on a phone call, see what it is. And then I had heard that they had just raised $10 million, which to me was like, $10 million. I didn't know anything about the tech industry.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's crazy. With $10 million, you can do anything.
Right.
So I basically started kind of just like vibing with them, telling them what I think they should do. Long story short, I flew out to Atlanta the next day to meet with them, and I told them like, guys, you should do a campus tour. Like, this is how we would do it, blah, blah, blah. And they offered me a job, an equity in the company. And I dropped my dream of Electric Flurry, and I started working for Yik Yak.
Nice. And that's in the middle of the lawsuit with all the financial challenges.
Yeah, and it was tough because like the person coming after me with the lawsuit had a lot of money. So those lawyers were just like hitting me with one thing after another. So I'd have to stay up like literally stay up all night answering like a 35-page document and then go to work the next day. And it was so stressful. It was a very stressful time.
Yeah, and there's no way out. And how are you going to scale it? And then you got this failing thing on the side. You got the partner. So from there, how did you work your way out? Was it just Yik Yak and then kind of started other entrepreneurial endeavors, or what was it like from Yik Yak on?
So Yik Yak was actually an amazing ride. We grew the company like massively, raised another $60 million.
Beautiful.
During my time at Yik Yak, people knew me as like a college marketer, and a friend of mine was over in China at a trade show, and this was before anyone had ever seen a hoverboard before.
Yeah.
And he calls me frantically, like, Jared, I got to show you something. I can't tell you what it is. I'm going to send it to you. Let me know what you think about it. I'm like, okay, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
And he ships me this package, and it's like this heavy box, and I unwrap it, and it's a hoverboard.
Yeah.
But you got to imagine before ever seeing these things,
Yeah,
that
like,
it's
what
like,
the hell, yeah.
like, what could this can't be, like, this can't work, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so nobody had ever seen them before. I started riding it around, and
What year is this?
This was like 2014.
Okay, yeah, so it's right before they came into play, yeah.
It was, before anyone had seen them. And I'm riding them around around the airport, and there was no like regulation on them, so you could ride them onto an airplane. Like everyone's head was jerking, and I'm like, everyone's asking me where to buy them, and I'm like, I don't know where you could buy them. You can't buy them. You can't buy them. You're like, they're not on sale. And then I'm like, I gotta start selling these things. And so I just made some business cards, and I started. I made a website, and I sold them for $1,000 more than I got them for. I found a supplier. And I was selling like 1 or 2 per week, and it was like a little side income, $1,000, $2,000 a week. But I was obsessed with figuring out how could I sell 1,000 of them and make $1 million. Like that's all I could do is sell 1,000.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about eCommerce or online marketing. I knew everything about college marketing for Electric Flurry and Yik Yak.
Right.
And I just, I was asking all my friends and people around me, like, how do we sell 1,000 of these? And people were giving suggestions. And I linked up with a friend of mine from Yik Yak named Jack McCall. Okay. He had like 50,000 followers on Instagram. So I'm like, maybe if Jack McCall posts this, we'll get some sales.
Yeah.
I'm just like learning internet marketing.
Yeah, just guessing, yeah.
And one thing led to another, and he was like super fired up about the product. We made a cool brand. And he introduced me to a lot of these big Instagram influencers, like Nash Greer, Hayes Greer, like all these kids with like 10 million, 15 million followers.
Yeah.
And so I flew out to LA to show them this product and be like, guys, you think we can sell 1,000 of these? And they're like, 1,000? We sell 10,000 of these.
Yeah.
So I was over at their house one night, and they call over their manager, and their manager's like a 40-year-old guy. And he's like, Jared, like these guys never want to do brand deals. We got to jump on this now. Like they're super fired up. Yeah. So I made a deal with them real fast, and we put a huge promotion out through their pages. And we sold a bunch of them, and we ended up making like $250,000 our first month with them.
Nice, yeah.
And I was working a job where I was getting like a $60,000 salary. I had equity, but it was like, come on, in 1 month I just made this much money.
Exactly.
I can't be working this job anymore.
Right, yeah, that would take you, it's like almost 5 years. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And then from there you leave Yik Yak and you go straight into online sales?
Not yet. Actually, while we were selling the hoverboards, Mark Cuban had made he announced he was buying the patent on the product. And he ended up getting in touch with me and calling me one day.
Mark Cuban?
Yeah.
Mark Cuban calls you personally?
Mark Cuban calls me personally. And
nice.
I'm not gonna lie, I was actually home visiting. I had just got back from I was living in Australia for a month for Yik Yak, so I was like extremely jet lagged.
Yeah.
I went out the night before with my friends. I was really hungover and I felt terrible. I was actually like literally, I'm embarrassed, but I was throwing up.
Yeah.
And I got a text from him saying, hey, like, I'm calling you in 5 minutes. Because we had been in touch a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm like throwing up and I got a text saying, I'm calling you in 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh no, like Jared, snap into it. Like, so none of my friends knew. I was at my friend's apartment in New York City. And I ran downstairs. I'm like calling my business partners for a pep talk. I'm like, yo guys, like Mark Cuban's about to call me. Like, what should I do? What should I say? And the next thing you know, I got a call from Texas on the other line. I'm like, all right, I gotta go. Get to the phone, like, Jared speaking. And he was like, Jared, it's Mark Cuban. And I'm like, oh my God, he's calling me.
Yeah.
And he was like always, he was like an idol of mine.
Of course, yeah.
Like I always wanted to be like Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
So
and now he's here calling you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like telling him about our journey with the hoverboards, and he loved our brand. Yeah. Because he loved how we got all the influencers involved, and we grew to about 100,000 Instagram followers in a month, but like our photos were getting like 20,000 likes.
Wow. So the engagement was super high too. People were hyped on the product.
Yeah. Hyped on the product, hyped on the brand. And
What was it called?
Glider.
Glider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he basically told me, like, listen, I love your brand. I want to meet with you and your team. And I want to make a deal with you, but you're going to have to stop selling these cheap Chinese knockoff hoverboards because I have my own coming out in February. And this was in October, so it was right before the holiday season.
Right.
So, like, that's when the majority of sales would have occurred.
Right.
So it put me in a really tough position because, like, do we sell through the holidays and make like a few $1 million?
Right.
Or do we cut our sales and then do a deal with Mark Cuban and hopefully make 10 or 100 million or who knows what? And ultimately, I ended up deciding to stop selling, to take the risk and see if we could make a deal with Mark Cuban.
Right.
But during that time, like, hoverboards were catching fire and getting a really bad reputation.
Right.
So, you know, the kind of the hype and the buzz died down, and he didn't end up going through with the patent. So it kind of left us with nothing.
Oh man, yeah.
But I knew, like, the potential of selling products. So I'm like, you know, I got to do something with this brand.
Yeah,
We
and
have
I can rinse and repeat this model on something else. Yeah.
Right. So called my partner Jack after I got home from work one day, and I'm like, Jack, if I quit my job, will you fly to China with me and we'll find more rideable products to sell under the Glider brand.
Right.
We'll get a warehouse. Like, he was living in Washington and I was in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I'm like, we'll meet in LA. We'll get a warehouse in LA. We'll get an office and we'll just, like, make it happen. And he's like, I'm 90% in. And I'm like, well, I need the 100% because I can't do this by myself. And they ended up giving me the 100%. The next day I went and I quit my job and I booked the flight to China.
Yeah.
And while I was out there, I saw a Kickstarter for these inflatable loungers.
Right.
They were going viral on Kickstarter.
Yeah, we talked about that on the phone before. I remember. Yeah, the ones where you kind of hold up and then they inflate with air, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had seen them on a Kickstarter. So while we were in China looking for rideable products, I was making all these connections with manufacturers, and I found a manufacturer that can make them for us for like $12. And they were selling on Kickstarter for like $100. So I was like, I think we could make our own brand of these
Those
things.
sound like good margins. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know about the patents. I don't know about any of that stuff. Let's just import a bunch of them and start selling them.
Yeah.
So that was the route we took. We were in the cab. We were in a cab in China driving back to our hotel, and I just thought of the name Dumbo.
Yeah.
Let's just call them Dumbo Lounge Sacks.
Yeah.
I was like, give me a notebook. I wrote out the logo.
Yeah.
I took a picture of it, sent it to the designer, to our go-to designer.
Yeah.
They made our logo, and we got a few samples to bring home. Right when we got home from China, like a week later, Jack was filming he was a content guy, great content creator.
Oh, beautiful.
So he made us all these great videos, and I had never done Facebook marketing before either. I thought we were gonna do influencer marketing, but that takes a little time to figure out. So I'm like, let's just throw up some Facebook ads. And we threw up Facebook ads and ended up selling out of our first batch of inventory like in a day.
What was your guys' Facebook budget? Do you remember that first day?
I was scared to spend money because I didn't have that much money.
Right.
And I didn't know if it was gonna work. I think I spent like maybe like $200.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a course of like 2 or 3 days, and we sold out like 200 units.
So like 100 a day, give or take, in marketing on Facebook.
Something, a really small budget.
Gotcha.
But it worked really well.
In retrospect, are you glad that you would have done that? Because I'm sure there's people out there that kind of might have the idea, but since they're unfamiliar with online marketing, that they'd be a little bit more conservative with ads. What's your recommendation to people like that who are new to the game and kind of want to get their feet wet? Go heavy on advertising, stay conservative, test the market. What's your pulse?
Well, advertising is something it's an evergreen skill. So like, you got to try it, you got to figure it out, and you got to learn it. And the only way to figure it out is to do it, So my pulse on that is try it or hire someone.
And just keep testing the market.
Yeah. And you'll figure it out.
Yeah, if you stay the course.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Nice. Okay, and then from there, you guys start doing tremendously well with the sales of those?
Yeah, so those things, we sold out like within a few days, so we had to order more. So I think we started with like a small order of like 200 pieces, or maybe 300, I forget what it was.
And you guys were buying them for 12, selling them for 100?
We were selling them for 70.
Okay.
The competitor was selling for 100.
Nice.
And so we ordered like another 1,000, and then we had never like imported like these kind of products before and warehouse things before. So like we were trying to get a warehouse and like figure it all out.
Kind of figured it, yeah.
And so we sold out of those 1,000, and then we were just like bootstrapping the whole business. So it seems pretty simple, right? Like you're just selling these big inflatable bags. It can't be that hard, but your money's tied up for like 60 days when they're manufacturing and shipping, and
right.
it's all these unexpected expenses. And So we were doing really well. We started doing trade shows and started selling to like retail, and the company was getting. We did, I think, about $2 million in revenue.
Nice. And that was purely from start to finish. What, 6 months until you were getting profits there, or what was the time period?
We started profiting like right away.
So you guys were profitable like month one.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We kept just recycling our cash back into the business to buy more.
And then at what point did you guys evolve from that, or did the fad of that die, or what was it that evolved from?
There's actually there's a lot of people coming into the space because people saw how popular it was.
Right.
So Amazon started filling up with 100, 200, I mean maybe even like 500 brands. You know, everyone was importing them and selling them cheaper than us.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was kind of a fad also, so it started slowing down, and you know, we didn't have a patent on the product, so I didn't see it as like a long-term business.
Right, you didn't see it as something you could scale, and there was a lot more competition saturating the market at that time.
It wasn't something that was worth investing time and energy into.
Right.
That was going to be evergreen. You know, it was a good hustle after quitting my job to like make sure that I could live and like
prosper.
Yeah.
Nice. And then from there, because I know since then you've had some other entrepreneurial ventures. When did the Shopify thing begin? Because that's what you're most known for, right, nowadays?
Yeah. So throughout Glider and Dumbo, I learned influencer marketing and Facebook marketing. So I built a dropshipping store, and I started selling a few different trending products I saw on Facebook, and it was just working so well because the price point was really low.
Yeah.
The other stuff I was selling was expensive. Like the Dumbos were higher priced, and the Gliders were really expensive. So the lower price point stuff was selling like crazy.
Quicker, yeah.
So I was moving from California to Florida, and I knew I had to drive for like 5 days. You know, like 10 hours a day. It was a long drive.
Right.
And at the time, I was doing all the work for my dropshipping store. So I was doing all my ads.
For people who might be listening, can you explain what dropshipping is to those who might not know?
Yeah. So dropshipping is when people buy a product from your store and it gets shipped directly from the warehouse and manufacturer to the customer.
So basically, you don't have to pay for any of the overhead until it's ordered, right?
Yeah, exactly. No risk in inventory.
Beautiful.
So I had this drive, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to get on my computer and work and deal with customer support and deal with my Facebook ads. And I had this system for scaling that was like working like exponentially at the time.
Yeah.
It's like right at the beginning, and I had this drive. I had to pack up a giant trailer and like bring my dog and girlfriend and like drive across the country.
And all the while all this is happening, are you tripping out that like, oh shit, this is all happening?
Yeah, it was crazy. I went from like $100 profit one day to like $800 the next day to like $1,600 the next day to like $3,000, and then that's when my drive was starting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no way I just made $3,000 like just from this site, like doing really no work, just marketing,
just setting it up. Yeah.
But I was doing like maybe like 2 or 3 hours of work between all the Facebook ads and the customer support and ordering the products.
Right.
So I'm like, I need to hire someone to do this while I drive, or else I'm not going. Like I gotta keep this thing going. It's crazy. And so I hired somebody to run the Facebook ads and stick to my formula. And I hired a VA on Upwork, just a
virtual assistant.
I was paying her like $3 an hour, maybe $4 an hour, just to answer support emails. I ended up giving her a lot of raises, and her life is really nice now. But during the course of the drive, we went from like $3,000 a day to $8,000 to $20,000 to $40,000. We ended up doing like $60,000 a day in revenue by the 5th day. It was insane.
Yeah.
And every day I was like, you know what? There's no way this could last, but I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just stick with it, and I'm very appreciative of all the.
Yeah, I'm just grateful
every
that
day.
this is happening.
I'm grateful for it. I'm gonna stick to it. I'm not gonna tell anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone how well the store was doing.
Right.
And yeah, from there we just kept the business going.
Kept scaling it.
Yeah, I mean, we ran into issues on the way.
What were some of the biggest challenges in terms of scaling that?
I never realized how much work it would be to deal with like 50,000 to 100,000 customers. That's a very large amount of people who are buying from you.
And then you guys have a return policy too, right? And email support. So you got to catalog all that, address all those concerns, make sure the reputation's hot. How did you manage to do that? What were some of the mistakes made, lessons learned there?
Yeah, one of the first mistakes made was leaving my phone number on the credit card statements, my personal phone number.
Yeah.
I would get like 100 calls a day, and I'm like, I gotta change my phone number,
Yeah.
So that was one mistake I made. Another mistake was I wasn't really doing due diligence with my supplier. I just assumed everything was working well.
Right.
And I was traveling. I think I was in Thailand at the time, and started getting notices from my virtual assistant that some of these orders, like the tracking numbers weren't working. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, a few tracking numbers aren't working, whatever.
Yeah.
I ended up digging deeper and I found out that the supplier had sent out 7,000 fake tracking numbers to my customers and never sent out a product. So there was 7,000 customers that got emails with fake tracking numbers, which made me look like a scam.
Right, yeah.
Made me look like I took their money and sent them a fake tracking number because they don't know it's coming from.
They don't know it's drop shipped or anything.
Right, it's like, that's not the, it's just the business model.
Yeah, shit. And so they were screwing you?
Yeah, big time. I lost like $450,000 from that mistake.
And that supplier, and you try to get a hold of him, of course, doesn't answer your calls, nothing.
Well, first he told me that he was shipping them all in on a pallet so that he could unload them in the US and ship them from a warehouse so it would be faster. And I believed him because like I've sent him millions of dollars already, And I ended up having to like fight it and email all the customers and ask them if they want a refund or a replacement.
Yeah.
And it was a mess. I had to hire 10 more customer support agents just to deal with
clean up
getting like 2,000 emails a day.
So at that stage, did it get hard to scale it because you were so busy kind of cleaning up the damages that you didn't have time to market and build?
Yeah, I had to turn off our ads for like a month and clean up. I was like, either this business is going down or I need to clean this up and revamp. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I turned off marketing for a month. Mm-hmm. Cleaned it all up and then got it up and running again.
And what did you learn in that process? Any takeaways or wisdom you could impart to other people after dealing with that challenge?
Like I'm a very trusting person, and sometimes like I don't like to look at problems because I don't want to even like start. Because once I look at them and I see it, then I know I need to jump deeper in and fix it. Yeah. So sometimes I'll just like avoid it if it's a little problem.
Right.
But what looked like a little problem was a huge problem. Mm-hmm. So you really need to take ownership of these types of things, and that's something that I learned.
Especially with the type of customers you have, right? Because your reputation is built upon that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I want to ask about that because I read a recent interview you did with, I'm not sure if was it Entrepreneur magazine, where you said how important it was to set up things to build comfort and trust with your customers from the get. So how important has having 100% money back guarantee, free shipping, stuff like that to start? Any insight on that for somebody just starting? Because I feel like there's a lot of value there that you've probably been there and back.
Yeah, well, the value really lies in converting customers, and trust is a big factor to converting customers. Mm-hmm. So if somebody doesn't trust your site, they're not going to buy from you.
Yeah, it's the ultimate measure, yeah.
You can drive tons of traffic to your site, but if they don't trust you, like you're going to lose a lot of customers. Mm-hmm. So on the point of conversions, like a very small difference in conversion rate, there's a big difference in your success. If you're sending 10,000 people to your site per day, a 1% change is 100 orders that you can miss out on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could be a big portion of your profits for the day. Mm-hmm. So adding those trust factors and elements are really important.
Nice. And then do you use ClickFunnels, or what do you recommend as your conversion process? Or do you feel like, what you use is kind of irrelevant as long as the marketing's on point with whatever you do use?
Yeah, so we use a theme called Shoptimized, and it's worked the best for us. We've tried a bunch of different stuff. Mm-hmm. I've built out funnels for individual products based on like if they're doing really well to try to optimize them and do better. Mm-hmm. But I've never seen better conversion rates than just the regular theme landing page.
Yeah, okay. And then how about when it comes to finding hot products? What's your top tip to finding products that sell quick? I know you said something like if on Facebook a photo has over 10,000 likes within the first day or something, that's a good metric. I mean, what are things to look for? Obviously, we don't want to give away too many of the secrets. But I think that a lot of people kind of trying to figure it out can get discouraged, right? I know we were talking a little bit about that before. So just what are some tips as to how they can start getting traction, start getting the ball rolling, what to look for?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see a lot of these popular things pop up in your news feed. I like to look at like most recent comments and see if they're very recent. If there's like 100 comments from today, people tagging their friends, or 1,000 comments from the last week, that product is selling. Mm-hmm. So that other company selling it is doing something right. And it's not a proprietary product, right? It could be like something that you can get from AliExpress and sell too.
Right, yeah.
Just keep your eye out for those types of things. Really recent comments, products with a big enough margin that you can actually spend money on ads and scale. Mm-hmm. Because when you spend a lot on ads, as you spend more, your cost per acquisition goes up.
Right.
Inevitably. Mm-hmm. So you need products with a big enough buffer for you to make profit.
How about targeting, in terms of targeting your ads? Any strategies on that end?
Yeah, the strategy that I use and I teach my students is mainly, I mean, there's different ways you can do it. You got to kind of look at Facebook as like all the people on Facebook as like a sea of people. There's over 1 billion people. And you can either try to find interest-based targeting based on what you think, like, maybe this group of people here, but there's customers there. The way that we like to do it is we like to target really broad and use objectives that get ads out for a cheap cost, like a reach campaign or an engagement campaign. It's cheaper than a conversion campaign. So we do it really broad, and then we retarget people based on their actions. So if they watch your video for 3 seconds or 10 seconds or 95%, always retarget those people because they're the low-hanging fruit.
Gotcha.
They're the people that have already seen it and may be interested. People who added to cart or initiated checkout, those are even lower-hanging fruit. So to test products, you want to try the lowest-hanging fruit first, and if it's working profitably, then you start trying to find interest-based groups.
Nice. And then is there a difference between marketing a course versus a physical product, or do you approach marketing both of those the same way?
Definitely a difference.
Okay, because courses are more niche, right? You want to focus more on an exclusive group that wants to learn about a course. What are your tips on that?
Well, not only that it's more niche, but it's, courses are typically more expensive, right? So they're not just like impulse buys.
Right.
Normally when you're selling a course, you want to get someone's information, send them a link to a webinar, and then there's the webinar is your sale. Like that's how you get through it.
Right.
Selling a product is like you want someone to buy it on the spot. You want them to see a video that's really cool and like, I'm going to buy this right now. An urgency factor, we're running out of stock. So it's definitely a totally different marketing tactic.
Gotcha. Okay, and then for people who want to learn about your course, where can they find out more or learn more if they want to build their own Shopify store or their own online business?
Yeah.
How could they learn more?
Yeah, we're not taking everyone onto the course because we just want to make sure we're working with the right people. But if you go to my website, jaredgoetz.com, there's a place to apply. And you can fill out the application and schedule a call with one of our qualifiers.
Very cool. And you guys will walk people through the steps A to Z, or what's included in that?
Yeah, the course is like super comprehensive, so like literally anyone could follow. I made it so that my mom could follow along. That's kind of the way I did it.
Yeah. And then coming full circle back to your mom, I know that you said you grew up in a kind of rough situation growing up. Any insight that you could give to somebody who might be in a similar situation, whether they be with a single parent or, maybe lost in life or maybe financially stuck or, just kind of lost at any stage of life, if you could give your best, Jared's 60 seconds, best piece of wisdom, what would you give him? What would you tell him?
Yeah, I think, it really comes down to your beliefs. And your beliefs they come from your upbringing. When you're a child, you see things and that creates your reality. If you grow up in a poor environment, you may think it might be possible to be successful, but deep down inside you may not believe it because you've never seen it firsthand, or you've seen other people do it, but you might think that they have some kind of special ability or they had rich parents. That's what I thought growing up when I saw people from from a nicer area doing well. Like, they have rich parents, so like they got money from their parents to do it. So I always thought that was going to hold me back. But it's really important to let go of those limiting beliefs. I think that's like one of the best pieces of advice I can give.
And then replacing them with more empowering beliefs, or?
Well, you're never going to just be able to replace them. You got to prove it to yourself. But in order to prove it to yourself, you got to try stuff.
Right.
So really, you want to try to try to focus on not getting discouraged, so that you can keep pushing.
Yeah.
And then one little success will start to snowball into another success, into another success. And you'll still have those limiting beliefs that are stopping you, but you can push past those as the snowball gets bigger.
Yeah, you start developing a sense of momentum.
Yeah.
There's an expression I love. It says that confidence comes from competence. So it's like for a lot of people who are stuck, I think the common denominator, because we've interviewed tons of people, most of which come from rough situations growing up, and the one thing they always say is that they just used it as fuel to keep going. And if you use that, you develop a sense of confidence in what is working, focusing on your strengths, and then you kind of just build momentum from there and you transfer it into kind of like what you did. Like a lot of the failures, a lot of the challenges you had, the story could have ended there, but you kind of kept going, kept pushing to get to where you're at now. Beautiful. So the one thing too is at the end of every interview, we always play a game called First Things First.
Yeah.
So have you heard of it before?
No.
Okay. So first things first, basically, I'm going to list off 10 words, and then you respond back with the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Okay.
Does that make sense? The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
First word or phrase that comes to mind.
First word or phrase that comes to mind. So I say one, and then you say the response. So on and so forth till I do 10. Make sense?
Sure.
Cool. All right, so the first one is Shopify.
Money.
Second one, failure.
Pain.
Challenges.
Push yourself.
The lawsuit.
Stress.
Your past.
An amazing experience to look back on.
Your Lambo.
Feels fucking cool.
Wisdom.
Keep trying new things and your wisdom will grow.
Growth.
Growth never stops.
Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
I love it. And then last one, you ready? Passion.
Passion is something that is born within people, and those people with passion will succeed.
I love it. Oh, man. There you have it, Jared. That's a wrap. Anything else you want to share to the audience at all?
Man, it was a fun interview. Just
Absolutely.
Keep pushing,
Tons of value.
The internet business is booming right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you guys want to see more, make sure to click the link below and check out some of Jared's course. And we'll see you guys next time on the next episode. And feel free to listen to this episode on iTunes podcast and the link below as well. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.